Welcome to Beyond the Frontline podcast, where your hosts, U.S. Air Force veterans Donna Hoffmeyer and Jay Johnson, will help you transition from the front line to the home front. Listen every other Wednesday as they will bring great conversations, resources, tips, and feel-good stories that will resonate and relate. Now, here's your hosts, Donna Hoffmeyer and Jay Johnson.
Well, hello. This is Jay Johnson, and in the words of Matthew McConaughey, maybe I should say, all right. Hey, look, we're back to another edition of Beyond the Front Line. I am joined by somebody that I probably is my business partner across the board in so many different activities. You notice I didn't call you my partner in crime.
I know. Why we're not in crime today?
Not today. Today, I feel like just being a good steward out there. I think
because we have a professional on today.
We have a professional with us. For everybody listening to this, and we actually have our guest on screen, so we're able to see her. She can see us, and I don't know, Don. I'm really excited about today, though. I know I say that on many of these, but this one I think is such a critical piece to the transition process. Yes. So they spent time reflecting. They now know what they want to do, and what our guest is going to bring in as a subject matter expert are things that are going to hopefully get them an opportunity.
So we are super excited. I'm going to tell you the background. I met Alisha on Instagram, and she actually reached out to me and said, hey, are you like looking for people for your podcast? And I'm like, yeah, guess we are. And so her and I met and had a wonderful conversation, and I was hugely impressed by her and very thankful for people like her, because I, unlike these other two, am the person that's, here's my resume, make it look good. So let me just introduce Alisha Brown. She's a self-proclaimed career development consultant specializing in federal careers and resumes. She educates transitioning military and veterans on developing marketable resumes through resume writing workshops and individual consultations. She's the owner of Alisha D. Brown Career Consulting, LLC. She's making strides to motivate individuals to see their full potential, articulate their worth to result in sustainable lifestyles. Alisha has assisted in a total of 45 individuals secure federal careers or gain their next promotion within the last 2 years. She's been a keynote speaker, panelist, and philanthropist. That's a big word for me. Alisha has spoken to the audience of active veterans with answers, Military OneSource, Alpha Gamma Xi Military Sorority Incorporated, Camouflaged Beauty podcast, and the Female Veteran podcast. This girl's background.
She's engaged.
Alisha has been recognized by the National Resume Writers Association as an expert resume tip contributor for the knowledge she has rendered complicated career and resume concerns. A wife of 15 years to a fellow shipmate, and I just want to highlight fellow shipmate. She is a Navy veteran.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Mother of 3 wonderful young men. And let me also say, I bow to her because they're 3 little boys. Oh, and I have 2 kids. Yes. Native of Troy, Alabama, founder of Naturals in Troy, is an annual natural hair event in her hometown to celebrate and influence the men and women who wear their hair in its natural state. Alisha leads a busy lifestyle, understatement, and enjoys every minute of it. She firmly believes in living in the moment, and with God, anything and everything is possible. You can follow her on Facebook and Instagram at Alisha D. Brown Career Consulting, LLC, and you can visit her website at www.alishadbrown.com. And every time I say your name, I want to say downtown Judy Brown. Yeah. Alisha D. Brown.
Right? Yeah, you know what? Now that I know she's from Troy, too, I taught at Auburn University for 3 years.
Oh, that's right.
So I know Troy well.
See, I'm looking at her and her eyes just lit up. Okay, so no further ado, let's bring her on. Alisha, welcome.
Hello. Auburn University, huh? Well, I'm Roll Tide, so I got to come in.
Don't hold it against me, Alisha.
I come in with that strong Roll Tide. How are you all doing?
Fabulous.
Yeah, it's great to have you on.
Good. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
All right, so we're going to talk resumes, and I've already established that there's 2 people that have knowledge and 1 doesn't, and I'm raising my hand on I'm not going to say I don't have knowledge, but I'm just going to say I'm not as on point with this. So I am happy to let somebody make it look really pretty for me. So let's talk resumes. And we are going to really focus on just the whole process. And one of the things that we've already talked about is we want to focus on soft skills. So Alisha, I'm going to actually just hand you the baby, and I'm going to let you start where you want to on resumes and when you want to incorporate soft skills. And we are just going to interject here and there and just have some good conversation.
Absolutely. So I think a good starting point would be to make the difference stand out between hard skills and soft skills. A lot of applicants get that confused, or they focus so much on the hard skills that they forget about explaining the soft skills that they have. So in my time, I found it easy when I'm working with veterans such as myself to just make it real simple. In the military, we went by KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. That's what we did, and that makes life a whole lot easier. So your hard skills would be those that you can go to school for, those that you can obtain through training, or that you do some on-the-job training for, you get a certificate of completion for. Those are your hard skills. Examples of hard skills, my favorite would be your typing speed, because of course I'm HR. So I got to type for a living. So, how fast can you type? Well, some people may have to actually go and get training for that, speed typing and things of that nature. So that would be considered a hard skill. When we look at soft skills, those are the skills that you can't be taught. These are the skills that you accrue as you work with other people, as you involve yourself on teams, as you collaborate and do projects. These are the skills that you would acquire when you go outside of the nature of sitting down and getting some education and training. Some examples with that, one that I like to definitely hone on in, is your ability to do effective writing and do that orally as well. So your communication skills, how do you communicate in writing, and how do you communicate verbally? Those are some of the skills that I try to bring out of my clients when I'm trying to express to them, okay, when you're going for these jobs, 9 times out of 10, they want to hear you speak. So if what you're saying is confusing them, or it's not as clear, then that is probably going to tell them your verbal communication skills are not up to par where they need to be. So maybe we need to focus on some training that will help you spruce those up a little bit. Or maybe you need to go and volunteer for some work groups. Get around other people and hear how they communicate. And the same goes for when you're writing. If your writing is flustered, or if it's all over the place and it's just taking you from A to Z without focusing on the things in the middle, and it's not clear and concise, you may need to go and get some training on that as well. So that's yes.
Hey, real quick, don't you think too that today where we're at, some of the things that we have to help people with is because we're such a society now that relies on texting, and people are abbreviating words and using other things that aren't, considered to be fully vetted or professional in the way that then they forget, and they actually put that in the resume, or they use it in their daily language. And we really need to know there's a time and place for that. There's nothing wrong with it.
Correct.
We need to flip the switch, right?
Correct. And I see that quite often. It's real interesting that you bring that up. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was working with a veteran, young individual, came straight out of high school, really heavy into social media, and wanted to go into the marketing field. Well, the federal, they have different levels of positions for that. But when I saw her resume, it was a lot of abbreviations in there that are not your standard abbreviations, by the way. These are your texting and your DMs, like you're talking to somebody in your messenger box on social media. And I say, we gotta clear these up, because these are not acronyms that are commonly known in the workspace. This is what you all use in your social media space. And while it's good to have that aspect, that should be like your playing field. That's something extra that you can bring to the table, but not in your resume.
Do you have a couple of examples? I mean, I had a few things come to mind, but do you have a few examples of?
Oh, yes. It was BRB, BRB in her resume. And I said, what is this? And I said, is it a typo? She said, no, I'll be right back. That was what I would communicate to them. And I would let them know that I'm doing the job, or I need to step away. Another one she had in there was LOL. She actually had LOL in there. These are ways that she was expressing how she communicated. And I could only revert back to think to how I had to teach my son, my 21-year-old, how to make that split as to how you talk with your friends on social media and what you have to put in your resume to make it professional. So I really took that as a learning moment for her. And she was like, wow, nobody ever told me that.
That's
and,
my husband teaches college and online teaching, and he does humanities and history. And we'll sit there some days and he'll just look at me and he's like, I'm pretty sure that whole page was one sentence.
Oh,
my God.
Proper punctuation.
The punctuation, the grammar. Matter of fact, when I lived in Little Rock, I was in my master's for my degree, and part of it was like training people and doing different stuff. And this girl started working with me, and she tells me, I want to, go to college. I'm going to go up to this college. And I sat her down and I said, okay, listen, I think that's great. I fabulous. I said, but I want to give you a good start. I said, you cannot go up there and communicate on your papers like you talked to me in an email. And she said, what do you mean? I said, you have no capitals, no periods, no commas. I said, I truly cry when your email comes because it takes me about 15 minutes to decipher because I have to put in all the grammatics. Nothing. It's a block of words. And she's
my Lord.
Really? And I said, yes, really. And I'll tell you, I got to hear her. She went to college and she goes, oh, you are so right.
Oh, okay. Like I was over here just screeching my head like, you gotta be kidding me. No periods.
So this is good, Alisha, though, what you just brought forward in that discussion around it. That is something they need to, and because you're hitting on the verbal, the linguistics piece of it, not just the written. It's really important that when they pull you in for an interview, which you and I discussed earlier, I don't mean to, steal your thunder, but
no, come on.
A resume is meant to represent you, to get you the opportunity to interview. That interview is where they're really now looking at, are you a good fit? Right. And do you have organizational skills? Can you speak appropriately? And I think you're equipping them with some really good info right here.
Well, thank you. It's just, I wish they would all use it, maintain it, and grow on it.
I've had some water.
But you can't make them drink it.
Yeah,
that is true. You would see your repeat clients come and I know we just talked about this, and I get it. I give them the benefit of doubt because it is a lot of information if that's not something you specialize in. Who has time to tailor a resume to meet the need of the job vacancy announcement?
Okay, you hit on something right there, but I'm going to back us up first, but don't forget.
Sure.
I'm going to back us up.
Okay.
I want to go back into the soft skills for a minute.
Okay. All right.
Because like I said, I say enough how important it is. And where I see a lot of that, like on LinkedIn, there's actually a lot of people that they're all interesting to read because they all read like an OPR or an EPR, like a officer listed performance report. I do giggle. I'm just like, okay.
Yes.
But if somebody comes to you and says, Alisha, I want to take my job, like, oh, we'll take Jay. He was a weapons instructor. So his hard skills are shooting a lot of different guns accurately, right?
Yeah.
And not teaching, instructing, and not hitting the wrong people and whatnot. But how would you take Jay's job as a weapons instructor, and how would you turn that to soft skills? I'll let you two. You say what you do, and she can help you turn it to soft skills.
Oh, I love it. I think with that type of position, that type of job and career, I tend to focus on what you can do in black and white. Everything falls back to keeping, right? How accurately you are keeping or maintaining records, how accurately you can utilize any type of office supplies, such as making copies, using a fax machine. Again, this is at your very entry level type positions. I would not expect someone of an intermediate or managerial level to come in and say, oh yeah, I can make 25 copies out of the copy machine. Yeah, I'm going to look at your resume a little side eye if that's in there, and that's the level you're going for. But for those that are just new to that, trying to go from such a technical position into something like administrative, I will focus on your administrative abilities. Going back to the whole communicating styles. Are you one of those individuals that are clear and concise, or are you one that's all jumbled up? We need to work on some of those things. I would also look at effective leadership. That's one of the big ones. One, you're a military member, and two, you are probably in charge of more people at the age of 21 or 25 than you'll be at 45. So how can that translate over into the next position? You want to focus on your leadership skills. Bring in that training aspect. Shooting the gun, you got to go through training. Are you leading the training, or are you facilitating the training? It's just different ways that you can take that and you can flip it and make it work for any type of career field.
Okay, so that's perfect, because it rolls me into the next thought, which when you said tailoring. And so, for example, by trade, I'm a nurse. So if I wrote a resume for nursing, it would have a lot of detail about my abilities as a nurse. And in nursing, they probably want a lot more technical. They do want communication and whatnot, but definitely have to, are you certified in certain things? What have your background in nursing be? But then I went ahead and became a college instructor. And I told you I've dropped ADD, right? So I became a college instructor. And now they needed a CV, which is just a fancier term for an educational resume. And I had to tailor that to tone down my nursing stuff and turn up my soft skills. And I had to kind of show what I could do, what I've done, et cetera, et cetera. So talk about tailoring. So I just given an example and what the importance is and whatnot.
Oh, tailoring. So I think what people should focus on when they're trying to tailor a resume is when they are reading the job vacancy announcement, they got to understand what that announcement needs, what that company is looking for. Once you understand it and you can properly identify that piece in that job vacancy announcement, then you start to look for the keywords and the action verbs. And once you identify
let me ask you this, Alisha, before we even get to that part. What is the importance of tailoring? I mean, like, why do we tailor?
So I call it kitchen sink resume. So similar to when you're cooking. When you're cooking your food, you have a whole bunch of things in your kitchen sink. Some that you have already used, some things that you need to go and wash and reuse. So I kind of align that with how you would want to tailor the information in your resume. You don't want a whole bunch of everything, right? You have a whole lot of experience nursing. You went on to do a few other things. So if you're trying to jumble all that up into one resume and apply for something that's, let's say, in the bakery field, none of what you're putting in there as a nurse is probably going to translate over as you're stating it to meet the needs of that bakery vacancy announcement. So you have to read the announcement, understand what they're looking for, and make your experience match what they're looking for. So that's the tailoring piece of it, when it is specific for that one job. And yes, I always highly recommend that you tailor different resumes for different positions. If you're going to continue to use that one resume for multiple jobs, 9 times out of 10, you're probably not going to move forward because you're not meeting the need. It's not tailored for that specific job vacancy announcement. So you got to go back and fine tune it a little bit and make it fit it. That's the basic way.
What should they be looking at? And I know the answer, but I'm asking you, what should they be looking at to tailor the resume? So if you go into anywhere, USA Jobs, Indeed, Glassdoor, wherever you go, and you see the job description, where should their eyes go? Because my eyes go to one place immediately.
Everybody wants
looking to see, like, do I want this, or do they want me, or is there a match? Like, where should we be looking?
Yeah, so outside of looking for the money and the range of what they're paying, make sure you're looking at the job duties, the roles and responsibilities that they are identifying. For federal vacancy announcements, there are actually 3 places that I recommend individuals look, and that is specific to the duties and responsibilities section, and then that is also the actual questionnaire. So before you apply for a federal job, look at the questionnaire first, and there should be a link in the vacancy announcement on USA Jobs that you click on, and it'll bring up the exact thing that you have to use to apply. And you can see it right there.
And we're going to get into federal resumes on part 2. So we'll get to like way detailed. You get to go crazy on part 2. Because that's definitely something that I have no idea about. And Jay already told me. I have no clue.
Well, I went through the process, and it's a much lengthier process than a normal resume.
Oh, yeah, you do it, didn't you?
Yeah, I was a government civilian for 5 years.
Oh, we got a lot in common, Jay.
We do. Well, and I used to work with those that were, I will say, on the top floor that were our staffers who were doing all that you have a background in, Alisha, but I don't have your knowledge. I'll say that. I've got a basic awareness in the federal resume.
But and I'll say this too, that's a positive, right? Because you have some knowledge. You would not believe, and I know we're going to talk about this on the second one, but you would not believe how many individuals that do not have a knowledge that try to teach people how to do it and get in there. So because you just have a tidbit and you were in it, high five. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey, I know that we're kind of bouncing around, but this is what happens during coffee talk, right?
Absolutely.
We feed off each other. I was still thinking about soft skills, Alisha.
Okay.
And we've talked about communication skills. That's huge. And part of that is listening. But I jotted down a few notes a minute ago. I was thinking about conflict resolution. How does one get along with other people when conflict arises? How do you work through that? Followership skills, emotional intelligence, those kinds of things. Would you agree with some or all or none of those that as being critical to soft skill and success?
Yeah, I would agree with all three, just in workplace in general. But what I have seen done before is it explicitly written in the resume as I know how to resolve these types of issues, and they start to explain how, right? And it does not pertain to that vacancy. It's I would recommend for those types of situations to wait till you get the interview. Because they're going to ask you those questions. How do you operate in high volume type environments? So save those types of soft skills for the interview so you can really make yourself shine. And then that gets you where you're trying to get to. But yeah, all three of those you definitely got to have, especially conflict resolution is in these times. Virtual conflict resolution is a big thing. Yeah, that's a thing, and it's a big thing. People get on Zooms and they don't know how to have proper mannerisms. And so that's something now that I'm seeing being added to resumes as well.
Yeah, I like that a lot for sure. So you were alluding to save some of that for the interview. Good interviewers are going to ask behavioral based questions. Tell me about a time when you, and then they lay that out and you get to respond, because behavior is often predictable, right? If they do something one way, you're often to see that manifest or be seen in another way. So those are fantastic, Alisha. That's good.
Well, another thing that comes to my mind is that if you put down a story about everything you've done, conflict resolution, or how you showed emotional intelligence or whatnot, you would have a 20-page resume. And Alisha, on average, how long does somebody look at a resume? And because of that, how long should these resumes be?
6 seconds is the amount that they're doing out there in the private sector. 6 seconds. You have 6 seconds to get the attention of the reader. So you better do it and do it quick and do it in a concise manner, but be very detailed. Use numbers at the very top of your resume. Some people are still hung on this whole objective statement. I am not an objective statement type person. I am a professional summary individual. So use that summary to get your reader, because you only have 6 seconds to do it.
I think I know what you mean, but I want to make sure that I understand and that our listeners do.
Yes. Can
you give a quick summation of what an objective statement is versus the summary statement?
Oh, absolutely. Objective statements tend to be only one sentence. And it says, I'm applying for this position of administrative assistant. And I try not to be such a smart person or smart mouth or insult anyone's intelligence. I'm like, okay, yes, we know that's the purpose of this resume, is because you want to be an administrative assistant or whatever the position is. But I need you to tell me how can you do that? And that's where I come with the professional summary. In that summary, you want to list some of I'm not going to say one of your greatest achievements, add numbers to it. If you have a type of certification that that position is specifically looking for, put it in your summary. The amount of years you have been in that position. For myself, it'll be 21 plus years in human resources. You think I want that to go to waste? Oh no, I'm going to put that at the top because I want you to see that you're not just working with someone that's fresh out of college. You're working with someone with a bachelor's degree or with a master's degree with all these other certifications, specifically, let's say with SHRM, right? The Society of Human Resource Management. They would want to see that at the top. So that's those tidbits that would grab their attention very quickly that needs to go at the top for that 6-second read.
A highly skilled human resource analyst with 22 years of experience, right? And just keep.
Yes.
You had it in your resume. Some of those kinds of statements in your bio.
Your bio,
right? Your bio, where you said an award winning or an award recognized.
Well, it's funny that Alisha, I was reading your bio. I was just going over it to make sure I wasn't going to mess up any words. And that's the comment. I was like, wow, this is really good. So I'm going to send you mine, and you're going to help me
sure,
make it pretty.
That's what I do.
Yeah, talk afterwards.
That's what I do.
Was well done, and I thought,
thank you.
Good. Of course, that's what you do.
Yes.
Hey, Alisha, I think Donna asked, and maybe you were getting to that point. I've always been a big fan personally, and I've had people look at me who I've helped in a layman kind of way, not in a formal way that you do. I'm a big fan of a one-page resume. And I've had people say to me, but I've got 30 years of experience. Yes, but you're not trying to put all 30 years down on the resume.
Yes.
So, Alisha, would you mind just sharing your thoughts, your experience around what is the max length? What's ideal?
So I would say it goes by your experience level. That's the rule of thumb that I utilize. If you're someone with 1 to 4 years, then yeah, you could easily get away with the one pager. You just have to be strategic in how you do it and make sure you're speaking to the need of the vacancy announcement. If you're someone that has been a supervisor or a manager, or you're at the executive level, then I would expect to see about 2 to 5 pages. And again, that depends on the level that you're going for. Okay. If you're just looking for a management position and you can get away with 2, maybe 3 pages, or even 1.5, but no more than 5 pages for a private sector resume is
that
what
would that be more like your CEO level, like
yes,
big boys, big
yes,
yes. Guys? Okay, so because I was like, wow, that's pretty. But what about somebody? Well, I'll just use me. Like I've had a lot of different jobs. Majority is my terminal degree is in nursing. And I'm a 30-year nurse. I'm still a nurse, but I've done a lot of other things. I've taught college. I've had a background in readiness. I've been an educator in the military, out of the military. I've been a preceptor. I'm a writer now. I'm an entrepreneur now. I do have a little job ADD. So how would you take somebody that's a little bit of everywhere like me and go, here's the pretty?
Well, first things first is you got to make sure that what you're doing will apply to where you're trying to go. That's the first thing. Then you would want to look at your years of performing that. Are we talking something that you did 20 years ago? How relevant is that to what you're trying to do now? If it's still something that's very relevant and you've continued to maybe dibble and dabble, then you put it in your resume, because that's still a skill. It's still an accomplishment that you have done. And if it's relevant, that's the key thing. You want to use relevant work experience. If you being a college professor and a prior military and a nurse and now an entrepreneur, and you're going back into the workforce, and out of those 4 career fields, none of them have what you need to get you where you want to go, don't use the information, or find another way to make what you have fit where you're trying to go in your career.
You know what came to mind for me, Alisha, as you two were talking on that? Some of the things you just called back to Donna that you heard her say, which demonstrates fantastic listening skills, by the way. If she was applying for a nonprofit, or a position for a nonprofit that deals in the healthcare arena, let's say hospice care, and they were looking for somebody to oversee their education and training arena, and you needed good writing skills, and you needed to write all those things she just said,
yes,
could be applicable within that resume.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
When you said are they relevant? I think that's probably a foot stomper moment right there. Don't tell me you delivered papers when you were 13.
Right.
It may not have anything to do with
Well, and I think I want the audience to understand too. I hope they're getting an understanding that you really have to break it down to the core. What are you good at? The thing I've said in past, I think I've said them in past podcasts, that one of the things I'm very good at is connecting people. And I'm really good at finding resources for other people. Well, it translates kind of into my whole business. How do I do that? Well, I do that in a variety of ways because I'm a pretty good communicator. At least I've been told I've been a good communicator. And so I write a blog. I now do a podcast. I've written books. I'm starting a business that has to do with writing, and I'm working on like some coaching, right? So everything falls in that arena of connecting people, right? Somehow I'm connecting people, whether it's through the podcast, through the blog, but I'm reaching people and I'm connecting them. And so that's what I challenge people with is like, can you get down to the core of you? That's my summary is, I just love to connect people. And people are like, what does that mean? I'm like, it means a lot of different things. It depends on what you're interested in. You know?
Yeah, you are a high profile networking queen. That's what you are.
Oh, I like that one.
Oh, that's hilarious.
What did I put on my...
I don't know, but I'm going to call you queen from this.
Yeah, not everyone has that ability to put resources together and they work. I mean, that's just a great attribute to have and to be able to put it in force. A lot of people can't do that because they don't know how to talk. They don't know how to ask the right questions to get the right responses. And so with you having that, and I'm going to say it, skill set, okay, you can go far. You can do so much with that and be in any type of career field just because you have that piece of communication skills.
But I'll add that it wasn't always there all the time. I mean, I'll give you an example. So emails, right? Not that I ever wrote bad emails, but I have had to teach myself because I'm a very kind of straight shooter person. We have a lot going on. I'm going to ask a direct question and just need a direct answer, and then let's move on. Well, let me tell you, if you do that in an email, you don't get friendly people coming back when you're like, hey, Jeff, Donna. And so I have had to teach myself, and I have a couple of people that I can do that with, like my friend Janita. She's like me. She's like, I love it when you do that. But that's not the majority of people. And I've had to learn, Jeff, hey, how are things going? Hope your week's going well. You know, some people may holler and say, oh, well, now you're being fake. Well, no, I'm not. I'm really not, because I probably am very interested in making sure they're doing well. So racing that I can. So I taught myself, write the email and then go back, read it again, and then make sure that I've got what I need in there. So I had to teach myself.
It's the task-oriented people versus the people-oriented people. Yeah. You're a task-oriented. I'm people. Yeah. So you step in and go direct with me, and you're right. I'm going to be like, okay, you're only going to come to me when you need something.
And that's what it comes across as.
I want to be seen. Yeah. So take a brief intro of good morning, hope your weekend went well. Hey, I'm following up on that. I will receive that much better.
And is it being fake? No, it's not being fake, because the reality is that actually what will happen after I ask the question, I'll be like, oh, hey, how are things going? How are you doing? It's just that my mind functions like I'll get narrow focused. I had to teach myself that skill. It is what it is. It's just
it's just the same when you're looking at the difference between a hard skill and a soft skill. How do you acquire those things? You just gave the perfect personal example of how you had to teach yourself how to be a little bit more softer, as they used to tell me when I first started in HR, in my emails. Not everybody wants to hear the whole yes and no, or, well, did you not understand what I said? You have to smooth it over a little bit more so it can be received properly. Again, that's something that you will not pick up in a technical school. You've got to go through the motions and learn how to talk to people.
And have some hard knocks. That's how you learn it.
Absolutely.
No behavior exists. That's what's the saying? It's no behavior exists that is accepted, I guess. I can't remember the exact term, but essentially, if you allow the behavior will stay. So if nobody said anything to me, I would think that that's totally acceptable. I wouldn't know different. But I have seen some different responses and I'm like, and have learned from others. Jay's one of them. I mean, by the time he met me, I was probably a little more refined at that point. But I saw people like, they come across and say this and they get a better result. So what's the difference?
She's never asked me if I would use the word refined. I might have a totally different. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. She said she's the one that always brings the humor. Hey, you know what though? Alisha, as we're talking about this, and personality just came in a little bit because Donna talking about being direct. Don't you think self-awareness, maybe that's part of, it is part, it's not a question. It actually is part of emotional intelligence. But as I was listening to that, I thought of me. It's the burden isn't just on those that are direct and task focused. It's also on me. In my career, I had to learn when I went to one of my superiors, if they were task focused and I knew it, I had to remember BLUF, B-L-U-F, bottom line up front. Give me what I need. And then if there's a little extra time, Jay, you can go into these other things. You agree that self-awareness, really working on yourself, your skills is a key part of this?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you said the word personality. A lot of people don't know how their personality affects or impacts their career. And so I'm really big on the personality test. I tell people all the time, go take a free one. Don't go get the MBTI. You don't have enough money to pay for it. Don't worry about it. But go out there and just do one that's done for at the college level. You would be surprised at what you learn about yourself when you take a personality test. And then if you add one that focuses on what type of career would be good for that type of personality, you probably say, oh my gosh, I'm trying to do the wrong thing. Or I'm trying to stay in something that I'm real, comfortable with doing because of what I did in the military or what I did at another location. So yes, I'm really big. I learned a lot about myself when I did the MBTI. And even though it was in the work environment, but I continue every year, I will take a personality test because I learned something different, constantly evolving, or I may feel like I'm not where I need to be. Successfully, I have different goals I need to meet. So do I need to change my personality to get there? Being a podcast guest, I would have never thought in a million years that I would be on someone's podcast until the very first one I did it. And I said, I sound pretty good. Okay.
We never thought in a million years we'd be doing a podcast. That was a new one for us too, but here we are.
You do have a knack for this. You've got a really good energy that comes across in your voice, and I can hear the care, the concern, the passion for what you do, which I think is infectious, quite frankly, in a good way.
Thank you.
I think it's a big deal though, the self-awareness, because actually that's how I met Jay, was through work, and he did personality test with our office, and it was hysterical. He does disc training. Okay. So I found out that I was the loner D in the whole group. Like I'm all sitting there by myself. And then I learned what D meant, which really explained why I sent direct emails and direct conversations. And I was like, oh, and we were in an office of S's, like basically the people that needed a lot more, hey, how are you? That type. And it's not wrong. It's just how we were built. And it explained so much. And it showed me how I needed to change my approach to be able to engage people. Really, that's what I came down to. And hopefully they saw like, oh, that's why Donna will be like, hey, do you have da-da-da? It's not that I'm being rude. It's just how my brain is. So we both have to learn.
So just to recap briefly, we're not done yet, but maybe getting close to wanting to land this episode and get you into what is another area, not just the area, but another area. So far, recapping what I've heard is communication skills is a huge soft skill, both in written and verbal. Spoken language. We've talked about personality assessments. We've talked about listening, really just trying team dynamics, your ability to operate. Alisha, can I take you back to this piece? I think will be beneficial to everybody.
Sure.
I really do believe in a one-page resume. You shared what you believe max numbers of pages are, and depending on the position you're applying for. I'm a fan of functional resumes, and I tend to see people tend to get myopic in believing that it can only be chronological. Between 1997 and 99, I did this. Between 99 and 05. So can you just briefly talk about what a functional resume looks like?
Again, I hate to insult someone's intelligence, but it's how you function. It's what you can do. It's very specific, and it doesn't focus on time frame. This focus on a functional resume focus on what you can bring to the table, not how long you've done it. It just does not focus on when you did it. It's just basically what you bring to the table. And I can tell you that out of my time of doing this, I've only done 2 functional resumes. Now, when I first heard about it, it was with NRWA when I signed up there and took on membership there. And I said, man, what is a function? We don't do that. We don't use functional resumes in the federal. So I'm learning this on the private sector end. And so when I finally saw some examples, I said, oh, it was missing numbers. I said, oh, so this is just to say my trainings or some accomplishments I have completed. So it's not really anything that's like the chronological one where I got to specify where I obtained the certifications or where I performed the actual duties and the roles and responsibilities. I said, oh, this is different. But it's nothing that, I'm like you, I'm not a fan of functional. I'm actually a fan of chronological because in combination resumes, I can do a combination resume as well to make it flow a little bit better, but it's a personal preference.
I love that. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to step on.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I agree with you, especially what you just said. And you know what? It's okay to have a different style and what you prefer, because you know what? The people who are going to come to you that you're helping, they don't know what you know. And you're going to help them structure it in a meaningful way that clearly and accurately describes who they are. And when they go into that interview, they're going to be able to see the congruence between what was on paper and the person sitting in front of them. I actually really love functional resumes, which is what I've utilized, Alisha, to take somebody who is maybe a 20-year career person, whether it's military or other, and get it to one page. So maybe I group things together applicable to the job that would say something like human resource management. And anything they did over the 20, 30 years, I put in bullets under the human resource management category. Maybe maybe there's one that's just resource management, where you can either talk about portfolios of people organizationally or dollars that you oversaw. Maybe you have a leadership and supervisory skills block where you talk about big teams you've led, big organizations that you've led. But you're 100% correct. It is a personal choice. And I just thought I'd share that's one of the things I use to take a lot of years and condense down into a single page, because you said earlier, 6 seconds. That's it. 6 seconds.
Yeah. Do you think that the functional resume would work better for like entrepreneur type? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I have no idea.
I'll defer and let her.
I would assume that a functional resume can be functional. Here I go in any type of career environment, to be honest, because again, you're not focusing on dates. You're focusing on your skills. And I love to say what you bring to the table, because you have to sell yourself in each way in the application process. So your first impression is what? Your resume. So if you can just highlight your skills and only focus on that's a lot of pressure taken off you, because you're not trying to focus on how many years you were at AT&T doing this specific thing. You're more so focusing on what you did there and not in number sense, if that makes sense. So I think that it could work. It's one of those type of chameleon type documents. It can work in any kind of environment.
That's interesting. Yeah, the first time I heard functional was from him, functional resume. I'm like,
how about this? Okay. How about this, Alisha? Do you recommend or do you help people with, when you're boiling down something they've done, to make it more concise?
Yes.
So that the person who's looking at it for 6 seconds can quickly focus in on a key skill or attribute that they bring.
Mm-hmm.
Do you encourage bullet statements or do you prefer narrative?
Oh, it depends. It really depends on the job. I hone in on what that position is looking for. I have done both, where you do a summary and utilize the bullet points to just identify specifics. I have done where you only use bullet points. I have also done where you do block style or just a big paragraph, and I use the periods and proper punctuation there too, so we don't have
Just to revisit
the run-ons. I'm just saying.
Let me just add that bullet statements is not the same as OPRs or officer or
No.
evaluation bullets.
Correct.
Not the same. Because I'll tell you, God bless, LinkedIn has good stuff, but when I read like different people's information, and I'm not saying mine's outstanding by any stretch, but I do giggle at reading their stuff, and it reads like an officer or enlisted evaluation form.
I'm going to offer maybe a little different opinion. I don't want it to read with all the acronyms like that, but in a bullet statement, I use the acronym AIR, Alisha, Action, Impact, Result, in one bullet under Human Resource Management.
Yes.
Tell me what it was you did, what the impact was, and the end result. And I usually highlight on a resume that I've done for somebody, I bold the actual result, saved 80% cycle time, or
well, maybe let me be more specific. I believe in that because I believe that it does show when it's written well.
Yeah.
But and for the folks that are not military, you probably know this, but we have so many characters that fit and you only get one line per bullet. And so some very interesting statements come out of that. Mm-hmm. And so what I guess I'm trying to get to people is like, you have more space. Like you can do the air and you can do it. Fill it up. You can be a little more explanatory and not acronym like everything, because we have only whatever character number. It's like Twitter for military.
And you're speaking of AIR, so I use STAR.
I've heard of that.
STAR, yeah, situation, task, accomplishment, and result.
I love that.
So it's good to see, and I just wrote it down. So I was like, oh, that's another one that I can go and look up because I've heard of CAR before, and I was like,
I have too. Yeah.
What's CAR?
That's a challenge, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, challenge. That's the C. Challenge, accomplishment, or achievement, and then result.
That's exactly right, Alisha.
All the stuff I'm learning today. I hadn't heard any of these.
Well, you can tell she specializes in it, though. When she says relevant, right, those kinds of words are huge because she's really going to help someone dial in on what it is they're trying to do.
Well, I can assure you when I decided to go for the 9 to 5, which I hope is never, but I will call her.
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
All right. I think we need to wind down this.
Yeah, I think so. Think? Really, really good, though. And I think look, it's impossible in a podcast episode such as this to capture fully what Alisha has acquired in years of serving others, and again validated years of serving others, because even in her bio she talks about how many people she has successfully helped land jobs. So only scratching the surface, but I think some of what emerged in this discussion is going to help someone get a little clearer.
The good part is that she has website and she does consultations. And we
want them to contact her.
And she can be contacted.
Yeah, that's what we want.
That's the whole point, is we bring these people to you, so a resource. And
back to you being a connector. Look at you.
See, I told you. Right. What's my quote from my business? It's equipping. I always confuse the words, but it's oh my God!
Don't look at me.
Own tagline, right? Isn't that sad? No. It's in the heat of the moment.
It's in the heat of the
moment. Well, no, but the whole point is that there we go. Equipping, educating, and empowering. I just totally blanked out on my own statement, but it captures. That's what I do. That is the whole point, through lots of different ways. But yeah, so all right. So Jay, do you have anything? Well, actually, let me back up. Alisha, do you have any last statements? Thoughts?
No, I enjoyed the conversation. You guys are great. The information, and I would just say it really feels good to talk to another person that has some, experience in resume development, or I would just say career development. Speaking with someone who's on the outside, you kind of get insight. So I got a lot of insight from you, talking about the things that you are having to go through and things that you're thinking about. That helps me better understand other applicants that may have the same issues as well. So it's a great discussion. I really appreciated it.
The feelings are mutual, Alisha. I love hearing and love reading what you're out there doing. So that's amazing.
And I learned from both of you. So I am the one that you'd have to drive me and go, let's see it. And I'm like, I dodge this. I'm horrible.
No, that's not true. See, as a coach, I wouldn't let you say I'm horrible. You've got to find a way to.
Well, I need to improve some of those skills that I'm not as fond of. How about that?
That's better.
That sounds better.
I'm working on being better at. I mean, that's what I asked him.
Sounds way better.
Come on, Alisha. Come on.
All right.
Yeah, look, I'll land the plane. I thought, maybe I'll
get a quote or something.
No, but I'm a repository of useless information until it's needed, and then it's not useless. A couple quotes come to mind real quick. The first one is by George Bernard Shaw, and he said 2% of people think, 3% think they think, and 95% would rather die than think. And I think the reason that came to mind and why it's so applicable to our conversation is most people don't want to do these kinds of things. And you know what? You don't have to, at least not alone. You do have to be a part of the process, because someone who's a professional like Alisha, who does this for people, for a living, and is highly skilled at it, she needs you to be an active participant in the process. And then she will take what you provide her to turn that into something that will resonate and capture the attention of those that have an opportunity that you're seeking.
You're investing on yourself.
That's right. But, so you don't have to understand it all, but you do at least need to participate. You can't just say, I'm not playing in this and I'm going to turn it over to someone. So I think I'll just end with that quote. I think that one hits.
Yeah. I think I saw this and it was very applicable and very simple, but says, as Sheryl Sandberg says this, build your skills, not your resume.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And so that's a great one. And I think that you build your skills and then you take all of them like a precious little baby, and then you walk over to people like Alisha and go, here, and let's make this resume sing. And then she goes, ooh, look at you with all your skills. This is going to be great.
All these things that keep coming out, Alisha, these are good taglines. I make resumes sing. I like that.
Yeah, that's all we've got today for Beyond the Front Line. We are going to be doing a part 2 to this, and we're going to be talking specifically about federal resumes. And so from all of us to all of you, thank you for listening to Beyond the Front Line.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Front Line, a podcast of Coming Home Well. Join us every other Wednesday. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. Follow us on Instagram at ComingHomeWell_BTS or on Twitter at ComingHomeWell. Thanks again. And until all are home and all are well.